Capricorn, you've had some pretty rough months recently. I thought last month you were recovering and I felt you were close to completing a cycle. Maybe you are, maybe you are. I think a part of your problems have been that you are a little bit pessimistic, or you have been. You see things through a negative veneer. Negative veneer is the wrong word. Negative, opposite of rose-tinted spectacles anyway. Negative spectacles, let's say. So, yeah, I think that's been your problem. And, you know, now things are moving slowly. You're very firm in what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And you'll see it through. In fact, you've been investing for the future. So you know there's change coming. And you've been investing for the future. But I think change is happening rather slowly for you. Rather slowly. There's a quiet determination there, which is admirable. You are being blessed this month. Multiple blessings. So I think this really lifts you out of this pessimism that you've been in. And it will attract good things. It will attract good things. And indeed, you, as a result of this blessing of feeling better, you get a marvellous sense of direction, of getting your ducks in a row, knowing where you're going and why. However, next month, I think you're going to struggle a bit, maybe with dependents. I don't know if you're married, you know, but it's like you're sort of working and bringing up a family and struggling to do it all. Probably doing a very good job, but you don't think you are. So I think there's more things to happen to you. One of the things that would change everything is if you were to focus on a conflict that's there. It's a minor conflict. It's a sort of conflict that if you sat down and talked about it, you could sort it out. But there is a conflict there. And if that sets you back into depression, I think things won't turn out so good. So let's look at each individual energy for you, Capricorn. I think I probably didn't emphasise the importance of this well enough in my introduction. And that is that the overall energy running through this is one of you saving for the future. Given that I believe that a cycle is about to end and a new one begin, although I can't see it here, I saw it last month, that strikes me as a very sensible thing to do, very sensible indeed. So what is colouring so much of what's going on here is the need to make long-term investments, to get the capital to be able to invest. So to a certain degree, I think that's driving you and driving some of these other energies that we see here. And that makes a bit more sense to me. And indeed, if we look at the future, it looks as though you've got dependents. And I wonder if partially it's being driven by the fact that people depend on you. It certainly feels like that to me. Now, I did say this in the introduction, but I believe the reason things haven't been so good for you in the past few months is you've been seeing a sort of glass half empty rather than half full. Somewhat pessimistic, and that will attract bad luck. I mean, I often say that a worry, and I suppose this is a worry is a prayer for things to go wrong. So if you do see things negatively, then things will be negative. And I think that's exactly the trap you've got into. This month is about you pulling out of that. And nevertheless, I think there are money issues. You know, we've said you're investing for the future, but I can see in the future you've also got some dependents. Don't know if you're really worried about money so much as juggling it maybe. just concerned, a little bit concerned maybe. Let's put it like that. But I think you do pull yourself out of this. Now your current energy is one of quiet determination. This could be about wealth or money as well, you know. Maybe you've got a financial goal there, but it's taking some time to get there. You're determined, you'll see it through, but it's all happening rather slowly. Of course, we've got that long-term investments. Maybe you were expecting some of these investments to come good before they have. Maybe that's it. Yeah. That's certainly a possible explanation here. As I say, you're determined, you'll see it through. I'm not particularly concerned about anything in this reading, to be perfectly honest with you. I think you are getting there, but maybe not quite as quickly as you'd like it all to happen, I think. And you see, in the future, I think you are sort of, I don't know if it's struggling with money. I think it's struggling a little to do all you need to do. I think you have dependents. Don't know if you're a parent. I mean, this is an energy that I call a single mother card, but that's just the energy, you know. I mean, you could well be a he, but they are struggling to do all they need to do. Feel there aren't enough hours in the day. Always feel tired. Maybe feel they're not doing a very good job, whereas I think everybody else thinks they're doing a wonderful job. And this is the future. So I think this is what's sort of motivating things at the moment. Maybe this is why a cycle hasn't ended, because you're too preoccupied with all that you've got to do, too preoccupied with caring for others, really. You know, doing all the things that you need to do. And I realise this sort of reading is sounding a little bit pessimistic, and that's the last thing I want it to be, because I think it's your pessimism that caused the problems in the past. And we have a wonderful tonic this month, and that is that you feel blessed. The sun is shining on you, and that will bring with it its own good fortune. People will feel that you've got this wonderful fortune, that things have changed for you. And this is the most perfect antidote to the pessimism that you've been feeling. And I think the perfect antidote to the future, you know, whereby, yeah, you have got dependence, you have got things to do. And yeah, maybe your plans are, you know, your investments aren't coming to fruition as quickly as you'd like. But I think now you've got this wonderful sense of hope, wonderful sense of joy and happiness, and that will see you through an awful lot. Now, having said there's this sort of sun shining down on you, this wonderful lifting of your spirits, there is, it always happens when something good happens, there's always a bit of a test, there's always something bad, and there is a test for you here, and you're not to fall into it, and that is, there's a little bit of a conflict. Well, it could be a big conflict. Well, I don't think it's that big. You're not massively affected by it. But there's a conflict here, and it's one of those sort of conflicts whereby if only you could talk to the other people involved, it could be resolved quite easily. I'm not saying that that's possible here, to talk to them, but what you mustn't do is get offset by that conflict. Allow this wonderful feeling that things are going your way, this wonderful feeling of optimism, to permeate this month of October, and things will go very well for you. So don't get dragged into the minutiae of this conflict. Now, as a result of this optimism, you get a wonderful sense of direction and indeed a sense of pace. Now that's a really good thing, because if you remember, I said things were moving slowly for you. You had a determination, but things were moving slowly. But as a result of lifting yourself up out of this depression, you've now got a sense of urgency, a sense of knowing where you're going and why. And I think that's an extremely positive thing. So what can we say? Well, we're going to summarise in a second, but what we can say, it's a bit of a curate's egg, isn't it? There's some very good points here, and I think it's really saying that your destiny's in your hands. It's up to you, it really is, to make the most of things. Capricorn, I think wealth or money and long-term investments and savings are at the fore during the month of October. And I think it's because you've got dependents. You've got people who depend on you, and I think you've made some long-term investments, but they're not coming to fruition as quickly as you'd like. You're determined to see it through. You're a determined type. In the past, you've been very pessimistic, and I think that pessimism has been creating its own bad outcomes. But wonderfully, this month, you pull yourself out of that. The sun is shining on you, and that means you will be creating good outcomes all around. So I think overall the trajectory is good for you. As ever, when things are going well, there'll be a test, and the test is a conflict. It's one of those sort of conflicts that if only you could speak about it, you could resolve it quite easily. But maybe you can't, I don't know. But even if you can't, the warning is don't let it dragged into it. Don't become pessimistic again, because you've got this wonderful sense of optimism, so stick with that optimism. And as a result of the optimism, you get this new wonderful sense of direction. But it's not just a sense of direction, it's a sense of urgency, which, given that things have been moving so terribly slowly for you, I think is a very positive thing indeed. Now, after this month, you are going to be focusing on trying to do everything you've got to do for what I believe are your dependents. And it'll be a bit of a struggle, but I think you're doing all right. So this month is something of a curate's egg, but what it's telling me is life is what you make of it. It's in your hands, and you can come out of this month very well.